beloved chosen one. This moment does not arrive by accident, and you are not hearing these words because the day happened to place them in front of you. Heaven has a way of interrupting ordinary time when your soul needs confirmation, and this is one of those sacred interruptions. You have been wondering whether your quiet obedience mattered, whether the choices nobody celebrated still carried weight, whether the prayers whispered in private still reached the throne of God when no visible answer came back right away. You have asked those questions in the hidden chambers of your heart, not always with words, but with sighs, with tears, with long nights of trying to remain faithful while everything around you seemed to reward noise, compromise, and appearance over truth. Yet even in that silence, even when you felt unseen by people, you were never unseen by God. This is what you must understand now. Heaven records what earth overlooks. The Lord does not measure your life the way people do. People notice the platform, but God notices the posture. People praise public victories, but God watches private surrender. People respond to what shines in the open, but heaven leans close to what is offered in secret. That means the moments you thought were small were not small at all. The time you stayed honest when dishonesty would have been easier mattered. The time you stayed gentle when your pain wanted to turn you bitter mattered. The time you kept showing up in prayer when your feelings were dry mattered. The time you obeyed without applause, going without proof, without immediate reward mattered more than you know. You have lived through seasons where your faithfulness looked almost invisible. You kept going without the support you thought would come. You remained loyal while others walked away. You carried burdens you could not explain to most people because they would not have understood the sacred battle beneath the surface. There were days when obedience felt costly and unrewarded. There were moments when doing the right thing did not make life easier. It made life harder. You lost things because you would not bend. You stood alone because you would not imitate what was false. You stayed still because God told you not to move, even when moving would have made more sense to everyone around you. Those choices were not wasted years. They were seeds. They were witness. They were memorial. You must hear this clearly. Your secret obedience has a voice in heaven. Every act of restraint, every hidden sacrifice, every time you chose reverence over rebellion, every time you lowered your pride and lifted your trust, it rose before God like a living testimony. Nothing pure is ever lost in His kingdom. Nothing surrendered is ever forgotten. Nothing placed in His hands disappears into emptiness. What looks delayed to you is often being prepared with precision by Him. He is not absent from your waiting. He is active in it. He is shaping timing, shifting hearts, arranging outcomes, closing doors that would wound you, and preserving blessings that could not safely come to you before you were ready to carry them. That is why this message comes with both comfort and awakening. Comfort, because you need to know you were seen all along. Awakening, because you also need to realize that the season is changing. There comes a moment when what was hidden begins to show fruit. There comes a moment when the reward attached to obedience begins to move from the invisible realm into lived reality. Not always in the way your imagination expected, and not always in the order you preferred, but with a wisdom so exact that later you will understand why nothing could have happened too early. God does not bring reward merely to impress you. He brings reward to confirm His faithfulness, to strengthen your identity and to position you for the next assignment. So do not call yourself forgotten. Do not name yourself overlooked. Do not agree with the lie that says your faithfulness disappeared into the dark. What was done in secret has already been registered in light. The Lord who watched you endure will also be the Lord who reveals why you had to endure. The Lord who heard you whisper will also be the Lord who answers in a way that makes you recognize His hand. There are things breaking in your favor now that you cannot yet fully see. There are divine decisions being released over your life because your obedience built a history with God. The world may celebrate talent, power, and visibility, but heaven responds to surrender. Pause here and mark this moment in faith by commenting 444, not because a number contains magic, but because your agreement matters. There is power in saying yes to what God is revealing. There is power in refusing to shrink back into doubt after heaven has sent confirmation. This is not the hour to speak against your own destiny. This is not the hour to return to the old grief that told you nothing good was coming. This is the hour to lift your head. This is the hour to remember that God is not unjust, and He does not overlook the labor of love poured out in His name. He has watched your hidden choices. He has counted the cost you paid to stay aligned. He has seen the restraint, the tears, the reverence, the patience, the trembling yes that you offered when your flesh wanted to run another way. And now, because He is both righteous and merciful, He is drawing near with revelation. He is letting you know ahead of time that your obedience was not simply about survival. It was preparation. It was separation. It was consecration. It was the building of an inner life strong enough to carry what is next, without collapsing under it. You are not being rewarded only because you suffered. You are being entrusted because you remained yielded in the suffering. That is different. Many people endure pain, but not everyone lets pain drive them deeper into God. You did, sometimes imperfectly, sometimes shakily, sometimes with questions still in your mouth, but you kept turning your face toward Him. That matters. So breathe in this truth and let it settle deeper than emotion. You were seen. You were recorded. You were remembered. Heaven did not miss one chapter. And because heaven did not miss it, heaven will also answer it. What is approaching your life is not random relief. It is the beginning of a response. The God who witnessed your hidden obedience is stepping forward so you can witness His open faithfulness. You begin to understand that hidden obedience rarely feels important while you are living inside it. Most of the time it feels small. It feels quiet. It feels unnoticed. It feels like showing up with a faithful heart in places that seem too ordinary to matter. It feels like doing what is right when there is no audience, no applause, and no visible reward waiting at the end of the day. That is why your journey in this hour connects so naturally with David, because David's story begins long before the crown, long before the songs of victory, and long before the public honor. It begins in the field, in the secret place, where only God was truly watching the depth of his obedience. David was not first introduced to greatness in a palace. He was introduced to responsibility in a pasture. While others were seen, David was sent out among sheep. While others stood where people could notice them, David lived in the hidden rhythm of tending what belonged to his father. That matters more than many people realize. The field was not a meaningless delay. The field was training. The field was witness. The field was where David learned how to stay faithful over what looked small. And that is the place many chosen ones misunderstand in their own lives. You look at your hidden season and wonder why it feels so far from the promise. But God often begins your greatest preparation in a place that looks too humble to be connected to your destiny. David's private life carried a kind of obedience that heaven could trust. He guarded sheep when nobody was praising him. He watched through the quiet hours when no crowd knew his name. He developed courage when there was no stage to display it. When a lion came and when a bear came, David fought battles that almost nobody else would ever fully understand. Those victories were not public spectacles. They were secret confrontations. Yet they mattered deeply, because heaven was recording what earth did not see. Before David ever stood before Goliath, he had already built a history of hidden faithfulness with God. That is what is happening in your life too. The battles nobody clapped for still count. The moments of obedience that seem too small to mention are part of the very record heaven is using to prepare your next season. Scripture says man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. 1 Samuel chapter 16. That truth sits at the center of David's story, and it sits at the center of yours right now. When Samuel came to anoint a king, David was not the obvious choice to human eyes. He was not standing in the front where everyone could admire him. He was still in the field. He had to be called in from the hidden place. Think about that. The one chosen by God was not absent from heaven's plan just because he was absent from the room. In the same way, your hiddenness has never disqualified you. Your quiet season has never removed you from God's sight. The Lord knows exactly where to find you when it is time. What makes David so powerful in this message is not only that he was chosen, but that he remained formed in secret before he was revealed in public. He learned worship when nobody was grading the sound. He learned dependence when no one was studying his methods. He learned how to strengthen his spirit in God's presence while living far from the places people considered important. That hidden life became the root of everything that followed. The courage he later displayed was not created in a single dramatic moment. It had been growing quietly in obedience for a long time. This is why you must not despise the season where your life feels repetitive, enclosed, nor unseen. Some of the strongest things God builds in you are formed when only heaven knows how hard you are trying to stay faithful. And then came the day when David walked from the field into a moment that changed history. He arrived carrying food, not a sword of reputation. He came as a servant, not as a celebrated warrior. Yet because of what had already been built in secret, he recognized something others did not. While trained men trembled before Goliath, David remembered the God who had already delivered him in hidden battles. That memory gave him a strength the public could not explain. This is one of the clearest signs that secret obedience is never wasted. What God teaches you in private becomes power in the hour of exposure. The courage you need later is often born in lonely places earlier. You know what it feels like to carry that kind of hidden history. People may see only the current moment, but they do not know the prayers that shaped you, the temptations you resisted, the nights you chose trust over collapse, the sorrow you carried without becoming hard, the responsibilities you held when no one thanked you, the private worship that kept your heart alive. Those were your lion and bear seasons. Those were the places where your obedience was proving that your trust in God was real. And now, just as with David, there comes a point when what was built in secret begins to speak in public with unmistakable force. Still, David's story also reminds you that anointing does not always mean immediate elevation. He was anointed, yet he still returned to the field. That detail is important. Many people would expect the moment of recognition to erase all hidden labor. But God allowed David to go back, because secret obedience was still completing its work. Perhaps that is where your heart has ached the most. You received a promise, a stirring, a sense that God had marked you, and yet life seemed to send you back into ordinary duty. But going back did not mean you were forgotten. Going back was part of the process. David returned to the sheep carrying an anointing no one could take away. In the same way, you may still be walking through daily responsibilities that seem too plain for your calling. But what God has placed on your life remains real even in an ordinary setting. So let this settle deeply into you now. David is not entering this message as a distant figure from long ago. His life is becoming a mirror for your hidden season. The field was not beneath him. It was preparing him. The secret battles were not detours. They were evidence. The quiet obedience was not lost time. It was the reason he could stand when the hour arrived. And that is why your secret faithfulness matters so much right now. Heaven has been watching your field. Heaven has seen your unseen courage. Heaven has recorded the obedience no one else celebrated. And just as David was called from the hidden place at the appointed time, your reward is not wandering somewhere in uncertainty. It is moving according to the timing of the God who saw you all along. There is something deeply sacred about the moments when nobody around you understands what God is doing in your life. Yet heaven understands perfectly. That is where you find David again. And that is where your own heart begins to feel the weight of this truth more clearly. David was carrying oil on his life before most people ever treated him as valuable. He had already been chosen in secret, yet the outward shape of his days still looked ordinary. He still moved through routines that seemed too small for the promise resting over him. He still lived in the tension between what God had spoken and what daily life appeared to deny. That tension is not strange to you. You have felt it too. You have known what it is to carry a deep sense that God sees something more in you while your present environment keeps treating you like you are easy to overlook. And yet heaven never overlooks the hidden chapters. David's life proves that the unseen season is not empty. It is full of evidence. Every private note of worship, every quiet hour of service, every lonely act of obedience was becoming part of a testimony that would one day make sense in public. The field was not glamorous, but it was full of history with God. That history is what gave David language later when others stood speechless. It gave him memory. It gave him confidence. It gave him spiritual substance. In the same way, your hidden obedience is building an inner record that people may not know how to read yet, but heaven knows exactly what it means. When David stepped toward Goliath, other people saw a boy with no armor. God saw a servant who had already proven faithful where nobody was watching. That difference matters. Human eyes often judge by appearance, timing, and position. Heaven judges by the heart, by surrender, by endurance, by the quiet choices that reveal whether you can be trusted with more. That is why there are seasons when you feel behind compared to others. Yet in God's order, you are not behind at all. You are being built from the inside out. Your roots are going deeper than your audience can see. Your spirit is learning how to stand on what God has done in secret rather than on the praise of people. That kind of foundation cannot be faked, and it cannot be rushed. Think about the contrast in that valley. Trained men knew how to speak the language of battle, yet fear had weakened their response. David came from a hidden place, but because his confidence had been shaped in private with God, he recognized the moment differently. He did not borrow his courage from the crowd, he drew it from remembrance. He remembered the lion, he remembered the bear, he remembered that God had already been faithful in places nobody else had seen. This is why your quiet victories matter so much. When the larger battle appears, you will not stand only on hope for what God might do. You will stand on the memory of what He has already done with you in secret. There are people around you who may not understand why you still trust God after all you have walked through. They may not know the hidden places where He sustained you. They may not know how many times your heart nearly broke and yet the presence of God kept you from collapsing. They may not know how often you had to choose faith without evidence, peace without explanation, and obedience without applause. But heaven knows. And because heaven knows, Heaven also knows when the time has come for your hidden history to begin speaking more openly. This is also why the seasons of feeling forgotten can be so deceptive. David could have assumed that being left in the field meant he was less significant than his brothers. He could have mistaken hiddenness for rejection. But hiddenness in God's hands often means preparation, not abandonment. You must not confuse the quiet with the absence of God. Some of the most important work He does in you happens before the world has language for it. Some of the most powerful evidence of your calling is developing in places where no spotlight reaches. That is not failure. That is formation. And now your spirit is being invited to recognize a holy pattern. The same God who watched David in the field, who marked his hidden song, who recorded his unseen courage, is watching you now with that same careful attention. Nothing pure has been ignored. Nothing surrendered has been erased. The tears you did not know how to explain have not fallen outside His notice. The obedience that cost you comfort has not vanished into silence. The faithful choices you made when compromise looked easier are stored in a place no injustice can touch. Heaven heard what others missed. Heaven valued what others dismissed. Heaven recorded what others never noticed at all. So when the time comes for your life to shift, it will not be random. It will be the unveiling of what God has been building all along. David's courage in public was the fruit of secret years. Your next season will carry the same kind of meaning. What begins to open for you will not only be about visible blessing, it will be confirmation that God has been reading every hidden page of your story. It will be evidence that your private yes still mattered when no one else understood its cost. And for those listening right now who feel this message settling deep into the heart, let it move beyond emotion into agreement. Like this message so more people who feel unseen can find it. Share it with someone who has been quietly holding on. Subscribe if you want to keep walking in these words of strength and spiritual clarity. And if you feel led to support this work, there is a way to donate in the description so this message can keep reaching the ones who need it most. David did not know in the field how each hidden chapter would connect to the next. But God knew. That is the comfort entering your life now. You do not need to understand every chapter while you are inside it. You need to trust the one who is recording it. You need to remember that heaven is not careless with secret obedience. God does not waste the faithful years. He does not ignore the loyal heart. He does not lose track of the soul that keeps choosing Him in private. What feels buried is often being rooted. What feels delayed is often being prepared. What feels forgotten is often being preserved for the exact moment it must appear. So keep this close to your spirit tonight. David was not made by applause. He was made in the hidden place with God. And because of that, when the hour came, what had been formed in secret carried power in the open. The same hand is on your life. The same gaze of heaven rests on your unseen obedience. And the same God who heard what others missed is still moving your story toward the moment when what was hidden will speak. As the hidden life of David unfolds, you begin to see that secret obedience is not only about what you faithfully do, it is also about what you refuse to do when the wrong opportunity opens in front of you. This is where many people misunderstand the ways of God. They think reward comes only through movement, only through seizing the moment, only through forcing a door before it closes. But there are holy seasons when the deepest proof of your obedience is restraint. There are moments when power is within reach, revenge is possible, and an easier path seems to present itself. Yet heaven whispers a warning that protects your future more than your feelings can understand in the moment. David knew that kind of warning. After his victory over Goliath, he did not step immediately into ease. Public success did not remove private testing. In some ways, it intensified it. Saul became threatened by the favor on David's life. The songs of the people stirred insecurity in the king, and that insecurity turned into pursuit. David, the one who had served, fought, and remained loyal, now found himself hunted by the very man he honored. This is one of the painful mysteries of obedience. Sometimes your sincerity does not soften everyone around you. Sometimes your purity exposes what is restless in others. Sometimes the light on your life awakens resistance in those who should have blessed you. And still, even there, your response becomes part of heaven's record. David fled into caves, into wilderness places, into hidden regions where survival itself became a test of trust. Yet even in those dark places, God was still shaping him. The cave was not only a hiding place, it was a school of restraint. It was a chamber where the Lord would reveal whether David wanted the promise in God's way or simply wanted the promise quickly. That same test appears in your own life more often than you realize. There are moments when you are offered a chance to secure something through flesh, through anger, through manipulation, through impatience, through a move that looks justified because of how deeply you were hurt. In those moments, the danger is not always obvious evil. The danger is stepping ahead of God's timing because the opportunity looks convenient. Then came the cave where Saul entered alone, unaware that David and his men were deeper in the darkness. It seemed like the perfect opening. The one who had tormented David was suddenly vulnerable. The men around David read the moment as destiny. They believed God had delivered Saul into David's hand. They interpreted opportunity as permission. That is where the most serious spiritual mistakes can happen. Not every open moment is a green light from heaven. Not every chance to strike back is divine approval. Not every door that appears in front of you is meant to be walked through. Sometimes the warning of God comes precisely when others are urging you to act. David moved close enough to Saul to cut off a corner of his robe. But even that small act troubled his conscience. That detail is precious. It shows you how sensitive David had become to the heart of God. He was not merely asking, "Can I get away with this?" He was asking, "Does this honor the Lord?" That is the kind of inner life God has been building in you through your hidden seasons. He has been training your spirit to hear the warning beneath the noise, to feel the check in your heart before your hand commits to something your soul will later regret. What protected David was not weakness. It was reverence. He could have harmed Saul, yet he would not lift his hand against the one God had anointed. That refusal was not passivity. It was obedience of the highest kind. Scripture says, "Touch not my anointed ones, do my prophets no harm." 1 Chronicles chapter 16. David lived in the fear of that truth. He understood that it was not his place to seize the throne through bloodshed, even if the throne had been promised to him. He would not build his future by violating the order of God. This is the warning that guards your path as well. Do not force what God has promised. Do not use darkness to obtain something heaven has already assigned to you in light. Do not let pain make you grab what only timing can safely deliver. What belongs to you by God's will does not need sin to bring it into your life. There have been moments when you stood in a cave of your own, with the chance to answer betrayal on its own level. You could have spoken words that wounded. You could have exposed what would have damaged someone else. You could have manipulated perception in your favor. You could have chosen the shortcut, and perhaps no one around you would have blamed you. Perhaps some would even have called it justice. But the warning of God touched your spirit and held you back. At the time, that restraint may have felt costly. It may have felt like losing your chance. It may have looked to others like weakness or hesitation, but heaven records those moments with honor. The moves you did not make in rebellion matter just as much as the steps you took in faith. David's refusal in the cave preserved more than Saul's life. It preserved David's own heart. Had he taken the throne by violence, the shape of his kingship would have been corrupted at the root. By obeying in the cave, he proved that he could be trusted with power because he would not steal it before the appointed hour. This is what God has been forming in you too. He is building a soul that will not contaminate its future by reaching for it the wrong way. He is teaching you to let Him defend you. Let Him open the door. Let Him remove what stands in the way, and let Him establish what no human hand can overthrow. That is why divine warning is such a gift. It is not there to deprive you. It is there to preserve you. The things God tells you not to do are often the very things that would have delayed your peace, injured your witness, and burdened your future. David left the cave still hunted, but also still clean before God. That mattered more than immediate relief. He walked away without the stain of self-promotion, without the burden of blood on his hands, and without losing the tenderness of conscience that made him fit for the kingdom ahead. So as this message continues to move through your spirit, let David's cave become a mirror. The warning that saved him was not punishment. It was protection. The restraint that felt costly was actually reward in seed form. And every time you held back from a move that would have violated God's heart, heaven was recording not your loss, but your loyalty. What preserved David in the hidden place is preserving you now. The God who whispered, "Do not touch what is not yet yours," is the same God who is still guarding your future through holy restraint. At the beginning of this section, there is one gentle note for those who feel mentally exhausted, distracted, or weighed down by constant pressure. Some listeners may find interest in a product called the Genius Wave or Genius Song, which is presented as a short daily audio designed to support focus, clarity, creativity, and calmer thinking in just a few minutes. It is described as helping with problems many people quietly struggle with, such as mental fog, lack of concentration, stress, scattered thoughts, low creative energy, and difficulty staying consistent in work or study. If that sounds relevant to you and you want to learn more, you can look for the official information in the description or the pinned comment. Please be careful with fake copies and only use the official source if you decide to try it. Now come back with your whole heart to the deeper message, because what you have carried was never random weight. It was assignment, it was shaping, it was preparation with purpose hidden inside it. David knew this in ways that most people around him could not possibly understand. After the field and after the cave, his life still did not move in a straight line of comfort. He had already been anointed. He had already defeated Goliath. He had already proven courage, restraint, and loyalty. Yet his journey remained heavy. He kept living inside a tension that would have broken a lesser spirit. He was chosen, but still chased. He was marked, but still misunderstood. He was called, but still burdened. That is why this part of the story matters so much to you. There are seasons when the weight on your life does not mean something is wrong. It means something significant is being formed. You have looked at your pressures and wondered whether they were signs of delay, signs of punishment, signs that perhaps you missed God somewhere along the road. But David's life shows another possibility. Sometimes the weight is assignment. Sometimes the pressure is not there to crush your purpose, but to strengthen your capacity for it. Sometimes what feels like too much is actually the very thing that teaches your spirit how to carry what is coming next. David spent long stretches in uncertainty. He moved from place to place, He had to discern who could be trusted. He had to lead while still wounded. He had to keep his soul from hardening even when injustice kept repeating itself. That kind of burden does not merely test outward behavior. It reveals the inner architecture of the heart. And this is what God has been building in you through your own hidden battles. He has been teaching you how to remain tender without becoming weak. He has been teaching you how to remain strong without becoming cold. He has been teaching you how to live under pressure without letting pressure become your master. Think of what David carried in those wilderness years. He carried promise without possession. He carried vision without fulfillment. He carried responsibility before he carried the throne. He had men around him who were distressed, in debt, and discontented. And somehow he had to grow into leadership while still walking through his own unresolved pain. This is one of the clearest signs that your weight has purpose. The burdens you have carried have not only been about you, they have been training you to become shelter for others. They have been deepening your understanding, enlarging your compassion, sharpening your discernment, and teaching you what human strength alone could never teach. That is why your trials have often felt so personal, and yet so much larger than yourself. God has been shaping a vessel, not just solving a moment. He has been building someone who can hold responsibility without pride, influence without vanity, and blessing without forgetting the place of dependence. David was becoming that kind of vessel. The wilderness stripped away illusion. It taught him how fragile human approval could be. It taught him how unstable earthly security was. It taught him to seek God not merely for rescue, but for direction, identity, and inner stability. The songs David wrote did not come from a life untouched by sorrow. They came from a heart that kept turning pain into pursuit of God. You know something about that too. There have been weights you never would have chosen, but they taught you how to pray differently. There have been nights when your strength ran out and all you had left was a whispered appeal to heaven. There have been losses that made you see how little control you really had, and that realization drove you deeper into surrender. None of that has been wasted. The weight was not empty. The weight was making room. It was hollowing out places in you that self-reliance once filled, so that trust in God could live there more fully. And notice this as well. David's burdens did not remove the hand of God from his life. They revealed how closely he needed that hand every single day. Some of the strongest people in faith are not those who never feel pressure. They are those who learn how to lean on God inside the pressure. They discover that divine strength is not a slogan. It is survival. It is breath. It is the hidden source that keeps them from collapsing when the outer life becomes too heavy. This is why you cannot interpret your difficult season only by what it cost you. You must also ask what it created in you. What wisdom did it birth? What patience did it deepen? What false dependence did it break? What spiritual muscles did it strengthen? David was becoming king long before he sat on a throne. He was becoming capable of carrying the crown through every unseen lesson, every painful detour, every moment of restraint, every betrayal, every lonely prayer, and every burden that forced him into closer fellowship with God. In the same way, what has felt heavy in your life has often been part of your becoming. You were not being abandoned. You were being enlarged. You were not being buried. You were being rooted. You were not simply being tested to see whether you would survive. You were being trained to carry glory without losing your soul. So do not despise the weight you once begged God to remove. Some of it was forming the very strength you now need. Some of it was teaching you how to hear Him more clearly. Some of it was protecting you from the shallowness that would have ruined you in an easier season. David's wilderness was painful, but it gave him depth. It gave him language with God. It gave him humility. It gave him strength tempered by dependence. And that is why you can look back on your own crushing seasons and begin to see them differently. The weight was not proof that God had stepped away. The weight was assignment. The weight was shaping a heart that heaven could trust with what comes next. By now you can feel the pattern more clearly. Nothing in David's hidden journey was wasted. Not the field, not the cave, not the wilderness, not the years that seemed to stretch far beyond what felt fair. Every chapter carried something forward. Every tear had memory. Every delay held meaning. Every act of obedience was being kept in a ledger far more exact than anything on earth. This is what your soul must begin to receive with deeper peace. God does not misplace faithful suffering. He does not forget surrendered years. He does not overlook the quiet choices that cost you comfort but kept your spirit aligned with Him. What looks scattered in your life has never been scattered in heaven. David lived long enough to learn this truth from the inside. He had seen moments of promise and moments of pressure. He had known public victory and private grief. He had learned that God's timing rarely moves according to human urgency. Yet through it all, there was a holy continuity running beneath the surface. God was keeping account. God was preserving the inner fruit of every hidden season. God was building a king not only through great moments, but through slow ones, painful ones, and deeply humbling ones. And because David kept turning toward God, what could have become bitterness was slowly transformed into depth. This is where your own story becomes so important. You may have looked back on certain years and called them lost because they did not produce the visible result you hoped for right away. You may have looked at delays and assumed they meant denial. You may have looked at your tears and thought they vanished into silence. But heaven's ledger tells a different story. The prayers you prayed in weakness are remembered. The acts of obedience you offered while your heart was tired are remembered. The kindness you showed while carrying your own pain is remembered. The things you walked away from because you feared God more than you feared missing out are remembered. None of it disappeared. David wrote from that kind of knowing. His songs carry the sound of a man who discovered that God stores what people overlook. He understood that the Lord sees not only the event, but the heart inside the event. He sees not only the public action, but the private surrender that produced it. This is why your hidden life matters so much. What nobody else can measure, God can. What nobody else can validate, God already understands in full. You are not dependent on the memory of people for the value of your obedience. Heaven itself bears witness. And there is another part of this truth that brings deep comfort. Not only does God remember what you did, He also remembers what it cost you. He remembers how hard it was to stay clean in a polluted place. He remembers the loneliness of being misunderstood. He remembers the doors you did not open because they were wrong for your spirit. He remembers the nights when you held yourself together only because His presence kept carrying you. David knew those kinds of nights. He knew what it was to cry out from caves and wilderness places where there was no human answer large enough to solve the ache. Yet those cries were not wasted sound. They became part of his relationship with God. They became part of the record. This means your tears have meaning even when they did not change the situation immediately. Your waiting has meaning even when it felt empty. Your quiet endurance has meaning even when others mislabeled it. Heaven's ledger is not cold bookkeeping. It is loving remembrance. It is the careful attention of a father who misses nothing that touches the life of his child. When David looked back, he could see that God had carried him through more than he understood at the time. And one day you will see the same. You will see that what felt buried was being preserved. You will see that what felt delayed was being timed. You will see that what felt ignored was being stored for the appointed hour. If this message is strengthening your spirit, let it travel farther by liking it, and share it with someone who has been quietly wondering whether their hidden faithfulness still matters. Subscribe if you want to keep walking in these messages of spiritual clarity and encouragement. And for those who feel led to support this channel's work, there is a way to donate in the description so these words can continue reaching hearts that need them. Now return with full attention to David, because his story keeps unfolding with remarkable tenderness. He did not become deep because life was easy. He became deep because nothing was wasted in God's hands. Even his waiting shaped him. Even his sorrow sharpened his dependence. Even his hidden obedience became material for future strength. That is why you must stop calling every hard season a broken season. Some seasons are hidden, not broken. Some are quiet, not empty. Some are painful, not pointless. Some are storing treasure in forms you cannot yet fully recognize. David also learned that remembrance in heaven eventually changes how you carry yourself on earth. When you know God sees, you stop begging people to be the final judge of your worth. When you know God remembers, you stop panicking over whether human recognition arrives fast enough. When you know God keeps account, you can remain steady while others misunderstand your present chapter. This does not remove all pain, but it gives you a center. It gives you a holy calm. It teaches you that your life is being read by a truer set of eyes. That is why this section matters so deeply to your heart. You are being invited to trust the ledger of heaven more than the silence of earth. Trust that your obedience is recorded. Trust that your sacrifices are known. Trust that your slow seasons still carry movement in the unseen realm. Trust that God has not misplaced one fragment of your faithfulness. David's story proves that what God remembers so he can also redeem, reveal, and reward in the right time. So breathe again with a little more peace. You are not forgotten history. You are not invisible labor. You are not an unanswered page drifting without meaning. Heaven has been keeping record with perfect love. And just as David's hidden years were gathered into a future far greater than he could see while living them, your own hidden obedience is still alive before God. Nothing was lost in the process. Not your tears, not your waiting, not your faith, not your secret yes. All of it remains before the Lord, and all of it is moving toward an answer shaped by His wisdom, His timing, and His unwavering remembrance. There comes a point in every hidden season when what God has been preparing in silence begins to move into the open. And for David, that moment did not arrive as a human reward for ambition. It arrived as the unfolding of divine timing. This is what your soul needs to understand now. The appointed hour is never random. It is never careless. It is never detached from the process that came before it. When God begins to shift a life He has shaped in private, the movement carries the weight of all the unseen years that prepared the vessel. David had lived through the field, through the cave, through the wilderness, through betrayal, through restraint, through long waiting that could have made him hard. Yet because he kept turning toward God, the time eventually came when hidden obedience met visible transition. This is where many people misread the ways of heaven. They imagine that the hour of reward will feel sudden only because they did not see the invisible build-up. But heaven saw every layer. God saw each surrendered moment that formed David's heart into something stable enough to carry authority. So when Saul's chapter came to its end and the kingdom began to shift, David did not step into that moment as a self-made man. He stepped into it as someone who had been slowly prepared through years of dependence. That matters deeply for you because there are things opening ahead that will not be random breakthroughs. They will be the release of something God has been preparing for longer than you realize. David first became king in Hebron over Judah, not over all Israel at once. That detail is important because even the beginning of fulfillment came in stages. God often releases promise with wisdom, not all at once, but in portions that match what the season requires. This protects the soul from pride and keeps the heart attentive. You may have expected one great moment to explain everything, but often God lets the answer unfold step by step so you will keep leaning on Him instead of worshiping the outcome. David's appointed hour began, but even then it was still a journey. This means that when your shift begins, you must not despise small beginnings within fulfillment. The first sign of release is still release. The first movement of alignment is still movement. The first opening in a long shut season is still proof that heaven has acted. Scripture says He raises up the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap to make them sit with princes. 1 Samuel chapter 2. That truth runs like a river through David's story. God is the one who lifts. God is the one who establishes. God is the one who moves a life from obscurity into purpose. David did not manufacture his own elevation. He did not force the crown through violence when the cave gave him a chance. He did not abandon reverence in order to arrive faster. He waited through pain, and because he waited under God's hand, when the appointed hour opened, it carried legitimacy no human scheme could have produced. This is what gives your heart peace in the present. You do not have to force what God has already assigned. You do not have to panic over delay as though heaven lost your address. The same God who knew where David was in the field, in the cave, and in the wilderness also knew when to bring him forward. Your life is under that same careful intelligence. The timing may have wounded your expectations, but it has not escaped God's governance. There is a moment when the weight you carried in secret begins to make sense because doors open with a precision that only God could arrange. People call it sudden because they never saw the preparation, but to heaven it is the natural unveiling of what has been growing all along. And notice something else about David in this transition. He did not step into his new season with the language of revenge. He did not come forward trying to prove himself to those who doubted him. He came forward as a man who had been shaped by long dependence on God. This is how you know a reward season is truly from heaven. It does not merely place something in your hand. It reveals what kind of heart the hidden years have built in you. If all your waiting had produced was bitterness, then promotion itself would have become dangerous. But when waiting produces depth, humility, and reverence, the appointed hour becomes not only blessing but safe stewardship. Perhaps this is why your season has taken longer than you hoped. God was not simply preparing an outcome. He was preparing you. He was making sure that when the answer arrived, your soul would not collapse under it, misuse it, or idolize it. David's rise was not only about the throne, but it was about a heart trained by secrecy, sorrow, and surrender. In the same way, what is arriving in your life is connected to who you have become through hidden obedience. The answer is not detached from the formation. The reward is not detached from the reverence. There are listeners carrying a deep weariness because the wait has lasted longer than expected. And yet this section comes like a steady hand on your shoulder to tell you that the appointed hour is not a myth. It is real. David's life proves it. God does bring hidden things into the light. God does establish what He anoints. God does remember the soul that refuses to build its future through compromise. The years did not erase the promise. They refined the one who would carry it. Your years have been doing the same, so begin to watch with new eyes. Do not stare only at what has not happened yet. Watch for the early signs of movement. Watch for the quiet shifts that tell you heaven is turning the page. Watch for the peace that settles where panic used to live. Watch for doors that open without manipulation. Watch for the strengthening of your spirit as though God is saying, prepare yourself because what was held in reserve is beginning to move. David's appointed hour did not come because the world finally became fair. It came because God's timing reached fullness. And that is where this message rests over you now. Your secret obedience was not leading into endless delay. It was leading into readiness. Your silent years were not empty stretches of forgotten effort. They were part of a divine sequence. David's story stands before you as living evidence that the hour does come. The hidden life does meet visible transition. The one who was faithful in obscurity is brought forward by the hand of God. And when that hand moves, no cave, no wilderness, no misunderstanding, and no delay can cancel what heaven has decided to release. Now the story turns toward one of the most powerful and humbling truths in David's journey. Because there comes a moment when the very people who dismissed, doubted, resisted, or misread what God was doing in your life can no longer deny that His hand has been with you all along. This is not about revenge. This is not about making your enemies suffer so you can feel healed. This is about divine vindication. It is about the holy moment when God lifts a life so clearly that those who opposed it are forced to witness what they could never stop. David knew this moment. He did not chase it in pride, and he did not build it through manipulation. He lived long enough under God's hand for heaven to reveal publicly what had been true privately for years. David had spent so much of his journey being underestimated. In the field, he was overlooked. In the house of Saul, he was feared and hunted. In the wilderness, he was treated like a threat before he was ever allowed to fully serve as the answer God had prepared. Yet none of that altered the reality of his calling. None of it weakened the promise resting over him. Human resistance can delay your comfort, but it cannot erase God's decision. This is what your soul is being asked to believe right now. The people who misunderstood your hidden season were never in charge of your final outcome. The voices that counted you out were never writing the last sentence. The opposition you faced may have been real, but it was never ultimate. When David was finally established more fully, it became clear that the hand of God had done what no human effort could secure. Tribes that had once been divided began to gather. Recognition came not because David had begged for approval, but because time had exposed the truth. What God had planted in secret had matured into something undeniable. This is often how divine elevation works. It confuses those who judge only by appearance because they never saw the years of obedience underneath it. They think the change happened suddenly, but heaven knows it was the fruit of long faithfulness. This is why you must be careful not to misunderstand your coming elevation. It is not merely about getting what others said you never would. It is about God confirming that your hidden obedience mattered. It is about the Lord making visible what was invisible to human eyes. It is about the moment when those who only understood your life through surface judgments are confronted with a deeper truth. David's rise was not a performance for his enemies. It was a revelation of God's faithfulness. And the same will be true for you. What God brings forward in your life will carry a meaning greater than personal success. It will say that heaven was involved all along. Scripture says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Psalm chapter 23. David understood the weight of that reality because he lived it. He knew what it meant for God to preserve him, lead him, and then establish him in a way that could not be hidden. Notice the wisdom of that verse. The table is not prepared after the enemies vanish. It is prepared in their presence. That means God does not always remove every witness to your struggle before He begins to honor your life. Sometimes he leaves enough of the audience in place so they can see that what he is doing cannot be explained by luck, image, or human strategy. You may have feared that the people who wounded you would always control the narrative. You may have worried that false assumptions, dismissive words, or seasons of being misunderstood would permanently obscure the truth. But David's story says otherwise. Time in God's hands becomes a revealer. What is false cannot hold forever when God decides to bring clarity. What is shallow cannot keep its voice forever when God decides to establish depth. What is rooted in jealousy, insecurity, or contempt may shout for a season, but it cannot outlast the witness of God's faithfulness. This does not mean every opponent suddenly becomes repentant or kind. Some remain confused, some remain hardened. Some watch your elevation and still cannot understand it because they only know how to interpret life through flesh and status. But even their confusion becomes part of the testimony. David's life stood as a contradiction to every attempt to define him by his lower season. He was more than the shepherd they overlooked, more than the fugitive they chased, more than the target Saul feared. In God's timing, he stood as the one heaven had chosen all along. That is why your current chapter must not be mistaken for your complete identity. What they saw in a lower season was never the full measure of who you are. There is also a holy responsibility attached to this part of the journey. When God elevates you in the presence of those who doubted you, He is not inviting you to become cruel. He is not calling you to poison your own reward with pride. David's best moments came when he remembered that his life belonged to God, not to vengeance. Your vindication will be safest in your hands when your heart stays humble. Let God make the statement. Let God defend the truth. Let God establish the table. Your task is to remain clean enough in spirit that when honor comes, it still points back to Him. Pause here and comment, God did it. That simple agreement matters because it keeps your heart aligned with the true source of your lifting. David never became strong by pretending he had no enemies. He became strong by knowing his enemies did not outrank God's promise. That is the lesson settling over you now. The opposition was not stronger than the assignment. The resistance was not greater than the anointing. The voices against you were never higher than the voice that chose you. And when God decides to bring a life into visible honor, no human confusion can block what heaven has approved. So let this part sink deeply into you. Your elevation is not for self-worship. It is not a trophy for pride. It is a witness. It is a living answer. It is heaven saying before every false judgment that your hidden obedience was real. Your waiting was not wasted, and your calling did not disappear in the dark. David's table was prepared in the presence of his enemies, and your own life is moving toward moments where the faithfulness of God will stand where doubt once stood. Those who could not understand your hidden years may not know what to do with your visible blessing. But they will not be able to deny that the Lord has been with you. As David's story moves forward, the meaning of reward becomes deeper than simple relief, deeper than personal vindication, and deeper than finally receiving what was delayed. This is where many people need their understanding renewed, because when heaven rewards hidden obedience, the reward is not always meant to end with you. Very often it begins with you, but it is designed to flow through you. God does not only lift you so you can feel restored. He lifts you so you can become a shelter, a source of wisdom, a keeper of peace, and a vessel through which others are fed, guided, and strengthened. David's life reveals this with increasing clarity. The one who once guarded sheep in obscurity was being shaped into a shepherd of people. That transformation did not happen by accident. Everything David had endured in secret had been teaching him how to carry souls, not just responsibilities. The field taught attentiveness. The wilderness taught dependence. The cave taught restraint. The long years of pressure taught humility, discernment, and the ability to survive without losing tenderness toward God. By the time David was more fully established, his reward was not merely that he had escaped suffering. His reward was that he had become the kind of man through whom others could be protected and led. This is what heaven has been doing in you as well. Your hidden obedience has been forming more than private character. It has been forming public usefulness. There is something powerful about the image of David as shepherd because it carries the heart of this whole message. A shepherd does not live only for self-preservation. A shepherd watches, discerns, protects, guides, and feeds. A shepherd notices danger before others do. A shepherd stands between vulnerability and harm. David learned that long before he ever sat in places of visible authority. That means the reward on his life was tied directly to the lessons of his hidden season. What he practiced in private became what he offered in public. In the same way, what God is placing in your hands next will not be disconnected from the hidden chapters that formed you. The comfort you learned in sorrow will help you comfort others. The patience you learned in waiting will help you guide others through delay. The discernment you gain through pain will help you recognize what others cannot yet see. This is why your life has not followed the shallow route. God has not been preparing you only to enjoy blessing. He has been preparing you to carry blessing responsibly. David's life after his elevation was never meant to become a monument to himself. It was meant to become a place where order, worship, leadership, and protection could grow. In the same way, your reward is not only that you come into peace, it is that your peace becomes useful. It is that your healing becomes shelter. It is that your restored clarity becomes guidance for someone still walking through confusion. Hidden obedience produces visible fruit, but the ripest fruit is often what other people are able to receive from the life God has matured. Scripture says, "He chose David his servant and took him from the sheepfolds. From following the nursing ewes, he brought him to shepherd Jacob his people, Israel his inheritance." Psalm chapter 78. That verse carries the entire movement of David's calling in one breath. He was taken from one kind of shepherding into another. The private assignment prepared him for the public one. The hidden faithfulness explained the visible authority. This is how God's ways often unfold. He does not waste the early training. He transforms it. He enlarges it. He turns the lessons of the small field into wisdom for a larger one. So when you think about your own reward season, do not picture it only as personal arrival. Picture it also as responsibility born from grace. God is not bringing you through all of this merely so you can say you survived. He is bringing you through so your life can become bread for someone hungry, direction for someone lost, reassurance for someone trembling, and proof for someone who is about to give up that hidden obedience still matters. David became that kind of sign. His story told people that God does not overlook the field, the cave, or the wilderness. His life itself became a testimony others could lean on. And perhaps this is why your process has been so deep. God was not making you impressive. He was making you trustworthy. He was teaching you how to hold influence without forgetting weakness, how to speak with authority without losing compassion, and how to stand firm without hardening your heart. People who have never been broken in secret often do not know how to serve with gentleness in public. But those who have met God in hidden places carry a different kind of authority. It is not loud for the sake of being seen. It is steady because it has roots. David's roots were grown in secret, and those roots are what enabled him to become a shepherd for many. You are moving toward that same kind of usefulness. The reward approaching your life is not just for your comfort, it is also for your assignment. There will be people nourished by what God built in you. There will be people steadied by your testimony. There will be people who find courage because your life proves that delay did not mean denial and hiddenness did not mean abandonment. This is one of the most beautiful parts of divine reward. It does not stop at personal blessing. It becomes multiplication. It becomes service. It becomes protection and provision flowing out of a life that once wondered whether its quiet obedience had been seen at all. David's journey shows you that the one formed in private can become a guardian in public. The one who once needed refuge can become refuge. The one who once cried out for guidance can become a voice of wisdom. The one who once felt hidden can become a lamp for others. That is the dignity God places on hidden obedience. He not only remembers it, He transforms it into something fruitful for many lives. So hold this truth gently but firmly now. Your reward is larger than relief. It is larger than visible honor. It is larger than the joy of seeing delayed promises begin to arrive. It is the mantle of becoming someone who can carry what heaven gives in a way that feeds others, protects others, and reflects God's own care. David was marked not merely to rise, but to shepherd. And in the same way, what God is bringing into your life is not only proof that He saw your secret obedience, it is also proof that He intends to use that obedience as a source of life for many people beyond you. That is how holy reward works. It restores you, and then through you, it begins to restore others. And now the journey comes to its crowning moment, not as an ending filled with noise, but as a holy arrival filled with meaning. David's life stands before you one last time as living proof that secret obedience never remains buried forever. The shepherd who was unseen in the field, the fugitive who hid in caves, the servant who carried restraint when revenge was within reach, the soul who learned to trust God through long and painful waiting, did not remain in hiddenness forever, in God's time. David stepped into a season where the reward was no longer only inward strength. It became visible favor, visible purpose, visible responsibility, and visible confirmation that heaven had been recording every faithful chapter all along. This is what you are being invited to receive now. Your new era is not built on human applause. It is built on divine remembrance. It is not shallow success. It is not a temporary burst of recognition that fades as quickly as it came. It is the kind of reward that carries God's fingerprints on it, because it rises out of what He shaped in you through secrecy, pressure, prayer, tears, and surrender. David did not wear the crown as someone untouched by hardship. He wore it as someone who had been refined by it. That is why the crown could rest on him without destroying him. And that is why what is opening over your life now is not just blessing. It is a blessing you are finally prepared to carry. This matters deeply because many people want the visible reward without the hidden formation. They want the table without the wilderness. They want the promise without the process. But David's life tells the truth. It was the field that taught him attentiveness. It was the lion and the bear that taught him courage. It was the cave that taught him restraint. It was the wilderness that taught him dependence. It was the years of waiting that taught him how to remain aligned with God when nothing looked easy or immediate. All of that became part of the crown. In the same way, what heaven is placing on your life now cannot be separated from everything you endured with God in secret. The crown is not disconnected from the obedience. The reward is not disconnected from the surrender. The new era is the fruit of what was planted in the dark, so do not enter this next season with fear. Do not enter it speaking the old language of being forgotten, overlooked, or left behind. That chapter taught you much, but it does not get to name your future. David could not live forever as though he were still in the cave once God had brought him into a wider place. In the same way, you must not carry yesterday's identity into tomorrow's assignment. You are not the abandoned version of yourself anymore. You are not the crushed version of yourself anymore. You are not the unseen version of yourself anymore. You are the one God has kept, formed, protected, and prepared. And yet, even as reward comes, the deepest beauty is this: the heart remains bowed before God. That is what keeps blessing clean. That is what keeps favor from becoming pride. That is what keeps a new era from becoming a new idol. David's best strength was never simply that he rose. It was that he knew who raised him. It was that he knew the throne came from God. It was that he understood the crown had meaning only if it remained under heaven's authority. This is the Spirit resting over you now. As your life shifts, as confirmation arrives, as doors open, as peace increases, as clarity settles, and as the reward of hidden obedience begins to take form, your soul stays humble before the Lord who brought you here. So let this become prayer in your heart even now. Father, thank you for seeing every hidden chapter. Thank you for not overlooking the tears, the silence, the waiting, the obedience, and the private battles no one else fully understood. Thank you for guarding what you placed inside this listener when weakness tried to crush it and delay tried to bury it. Thank you for the way you preserve purpose through pain and keep record of every act of surrender. I pray that you would let peace settle deeply now. Heal the places that still feel bruised by the long wait. Remove the fear that blessing will disappear. Remove the lie that hiddenness meant abandonment. Let your people feel the dignity of being remembered by heaven. And as you bring them into a new era, give them clean hands, a steady spirit, and a humble heart. Let favor never pull them away from you. Let reward deepen their gratitude. Let visible blessing become visible testimony. Establish them in truth, in peace, in wisdom, and in holy strength, in every place where they once felt forgotten. Let them now see your faithfulness with unmistakable clarity. Amen. Carry that prayer with you, because this is not just an emotional moment. It is a crossing. It is the point where you stop reading your life only through pain and begin reading it through purpose. It is the point where you stop calling your secret obedience a lonely burden and begin recognizing it as the seedbed of your reward. David's story has walked beside you through every part of this message to show you that God's timing may be mysterious, but it is never careless. His silence may feel long, but it is never empty. His hidden work may be difficult to understand while you are inside it, but when the unveiling comes, you begin to see that every chapter was carrying you toward something holy. And for those who have walked all the way through this message and feel something in the spirit settling into place, let that agreement take one gentle step outward, like this message, so it can reach more hearts that have been quietly enduring. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that heaven still records hidden faithfulness. Subscribe if you want to continue walking in these messages of encouragement, spiritual depth, and steady truth. And if you feel led to support this work, there is a way to donate in the description so more people can keep receiving these words in their hidden seasons. Now hold this final truth close. David's crown was never only about David. It was about the faithfulness of God. Your new era will carry that same testimony. People may see the favor, the peace, the opening, the restoration, the dignity, or the increase, But beneath all of it will stand one unshakable reality. God remembered you. God preserved you. God rewarded what was done in secret. And because He did, the next chapter of your life will not begin with fear. It will begin with holy confidence. Because the same God who kept you in the hidden place will keep you in the open place too. Let yourself receive that. Let yourself believe that. Let yourself enter this new era without apology. Heaven recorded your secret obedience. And now, in the wisdom of God, your reward is here. The road behind you was real, and the pain was real, but it does not own you anymore. What remains now is the quiet strength that God built in you and the future He has opened before you. Walk into it with peace. Walk into it with humility. Walk into it with courage. What was hidden has not been lost. What was promised has not been forgotten. What was delayed has not been denied forever. The God who watched over every unseen moment is still with you now, and His faithfulness will continue to speak long after this message ends. Stay close to Him. Stay soft before Him. Stay bold in what He has shown you. Your best chapter is not built on striving. It is built on surrender, remembrance, and grace.